Good morning and welcome back to what is hopefully the second to last virtual edition of Children's Church. And that's because in just a couple of weeks, we are going to be doing Children's Church outside during the Sunday service, during the sermon part. Cannot wait to get back to seeing you guys face to face and teaching you guys. It's going to be great. But until we get there, we might as well do more of these video things. Last week, we heard about how David was running away from King Saul because King Saul wanted David dead. So David, he just goes for it. He doesn't take any extra clothes. He doesn't take any extra food. He doesn't take any extra people. He just goes by himself and runs away. And he came to that temple, and remember he got some food and stuff. And the priest at the temple was all confused as to why David was there by himself. And David was like, "Oh, I'm on this secret mission. Shh, don't tell anybody about it." But while David was there, he got spotted by a man named Doeg. Do you remember him? We kind of just breezed right over him. I mean, now David was concerned about Doeg when he saw him there and knew that Doeg knew that David was there because Doeg knew King Saul, and so David was like, "Oh no, you work for King Saul. If you tell King Saul that you saw me, this could go really, really bad because I'm trying to escape from King Saul." You follow the logic, right? Well, it turns out that David was very wise in making that connection because Doeg is someone that should probably be feared, and we're about to find out why. And so David ran away from that temple. You know, the one where Doeg was, because that's kind of scary. You don't want to mess with him. And eventually he came to the cave of Adullam. And so David ran inside and hid there where no one would find him. People who either were friends of David or just were not fans of King Saul, they started to hear that David was on the run, and they decided that they wanted to help out. Turns out that David had a lot of friends because 100 men ended up showing up and staying with David. They became like his little army. And David, well, he was definitely thankful for all of them. But at the same time, 100 people don't just disappear quietly. And so, soon enough, King Saul found out what was up. We are in 1 Samuel chapter 22, starting at verse 6. Now Saul heard that David was discovered and the men who were with him. Saul was sitting at Gibeah under the tamarisk tree on the height with the spear in his hand. And all his servants were standing about him. And so Saul, he begins to question his servants. Who here knows anything about David and these men who have joined him? Who has any information? Because Saul, he wants to find out where David is and how he can get to him so that he can finish things once and for all. Well, no one was talking until Doeg spoke up. Today's video was brought to you by the letter C for clotted cream. People eat that? Verse 9 tells us that Doeg, the Edomite, he began to answer King Saul. He's like, "I saw David, the son of Jesse. I saw him with Ahimelech, the priest, over in Nob." What a great town name, Nob. Just love it. But anyway, so he's like, I saw David with Ahimelech. And Ahimelech, he gave David bread, and not just that, he also gave David a weapon. And not just any weapon, but Goliath's own sword. Well, King Saul, he is outraged. How dare the priest Ahimelech help David, Saul's enemy? So King Saul calls for Ahimelech, and Ahimelech comes to him because Ahimelech has no reason to think that he's done anything wrong. I mean, he knows who David is. David is one of the trusted men that King Saul allowed to marry his one daughter, and David's this great hero in Israel. And so he helped out David when he was on a secret mission that he thought King Saul sent him on, right? So Ahimelech's like, "All right, King Saul, what's up? I'm listening. What do you want me for?" And King Saul, he starts to rip into him. He's like, "How dare you work with David, my enemy? You're plotting and planning with him because you want David to rise up and overtake my throne and become the new king. I know it, Ahimelech. I know what you're up to." And Ahimelech's like, "Saul, what are you talking about? David, I thought he was one of your trusted men. I thought that you liked David. I thought that you allowed him to live in your palace and marry your daughter. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be helping out David. If I knew that you didn't want me to help David, I wouldn't have done it. What's the big deal? Well, King Saul, he doesn't want to hear any excuses. He doesn't trust Ahimelech. He is in his rage. King Saul, this happens to him a lot. He gets so angry and so jealous that he can't think straight. He can't see what the truth is. All he can see and all he can hear are the lies that he's telling himself that are just getting him angry and jealous and worried and anxious and all that kind of stuff. He's stuck in that mode or stuck in that zone. He can't see past it. And so he's not going to listen to what Ahimelech has to say. His mind is already made up that Ahimelech is just as much of an enemy as David is an enemy. Now, did Ahimelech do anything wrong? No, he had no idea that he wasn't supposed to help David. Has David done anything wrong? No, he hasn't either. Saul is just jealous of him. They've both not done anything wrong. But King Saul, he doesn't care. In his mind, they are enemies, they are a threat, and he wants to take them out. That's all he can see. That's all he can think about. Let's stop for a second and talk about anger. Now, this is for you, and it's also for me. See, anger, it's a tricky thing. On the one hand, anger can actually be good. Let me give you an example. Maybe you see somebody that's getting bullied. That might make you angry, or somebody's getting mistreated or hurt or something like that. That might make you angry, and that can be a good thing. That makes God angry too. But sometimes anger can also be a bad thing. Sometimes we can get angry because we have to wait too long or because we don't get to do something that we want to do, right? We can get really angry about those things that we shouldn't actually get angry about. It's because we might be being selfish or something like that. And sometimes when you get angry for the wrong reasons, you can kind of just sit in that anger, and the anger starts to mess with your brain and your mind, and you start to believe things that aren't even true. Say your aunt, she was like, nope, you can't have dessert yet because we haven't eaten dinner. And you get angry at her and frustrated. You start to think, she doesn't like me. She never liked me. She must hate me. Is that true? Does your aunt hate you because she didn't let you eat dessert before you ate dinner? Of course not. That doesn't make any sense. But when we live or sit in that anger, we start to believe those lies that aren't true at all. So when we get angry, first, we need to think to ourselves, is this a good anger moment or a bad anger moment? And then either way, we know that we should probably chill out for a second, take a deep breath, and then pray and ask God to just maybe calm your spirit, calm your emotions, so that you can see what the truth is in here. So, the next time that your aunt's like, sorry kid, can't have dessert right now, instead of just getting angry and frustrated and lashing out, take a second, take a deep breath, and then realize that, okay, maybe my aunt has my best interest in mind. Maybe dinner's gonna be really good and I wouldn't be able to enjoy it if I just ate that not so great Chips Ahoy cookie right now anyways. Not that Chips Ahoy cookies are, well, we're gonna go with this. Today's video was brought to you by the letter C for Chips Ahoy cookies, the best cookies in the world. Thanks for sponsoring our video today. Well, while I'm on the topic, I guess I'll say one more thing about anger that's been really helpful to me in my life. Sometimes when you get really angry, it can be helpful to just stop what you're doing and leave the situation for a short time so you can kind of just cool off, take the temperature down a little bit, breathe and think more clearly. And then when you come back, you can, discuss why it is that you got so angry. Maybe you have to apologize for getting angry, or maybe you need to talk about what the other person did that hurt you. So if you get in a fight with or a big argument with your brother or sister or something like that at home, just stop for a second, maybe go to your bedroom or go to another room in the house, sit down, cool off for a few seconds till the temperature comes down, and then when you've kind of thought about the situation again, you might have to go to your brother or sister and apologize for why you got so angry. Maybe say, sorry, I was just being selfish and I didn't want to share my toy. I shouldn't have done that. Here, you can have the toy. Or maybe you come back and say, hey, you should have done this thing and we need to talk about why I got so angry so that we don't have to be, mad at each other, but rather we can be happy and enjoy playing with each other more in the future. Does that make any sense? I'm just throwing out life lessons that I've learned in my life that have been helpful because when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, when I was an adult, maybe even like the other day, if I get really angry, I should just stop for a second, take a quick walk, sit down, take a deep breath, and then I can come back and actually be positive as I come back to whatever situation got me so angry in the first place. So, that was just, threw that in there for free. No extra charge. Unfortunately, King Saul used none of my tips when it came to anger, and he decided that Ahimelech deserved to die. So King Saul tells his men to kill not only Ahimelech, but all of the priests that were with him. And, well, nobody wants to, because they're the priests. Like, why would we kill them? They're not guilty. We kind of understand why Ahimelech is saying what he's saying. Like, it's making some sense, Saul. Maybe we should listen to him, maybe, no? And so, King Saul, he's all the more enraged, and he looks over to Doeg, the Edomite, the man who brought up this whole situation, and he tells Doeg, you go kill Ahimelech. And Doeg, he listens. I am very sad to report that on this day, 80 people died for no good reason at all. And so we see that days are dark and darker and darkest. I mean, David is on the run, scared for his life. King Saul, he's angry, angrier than ever. We see that he's also a powerful guy who seems to get what he wants. But there's someone who's more powerful than him. We know that we serve a God who is strong and faithful. And he made a promise to David, and he intends to keep that promise. And we know that because God made that promise, there is still hope. And that hope that David could hold on to, we can hold on to too. We can hope in a God who's strong and powerful and loving. A God who is alive. A God who keeps hope alive. Let's sing the song together. Days may be darkest, but your light is greater. You light our way, God, you light our way. When evil is rising, you're rising higher with power to save, with power to save. You keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Death had a stronghold, but your life was stronger. Rose from the grave, rose up from the grave. When evil is rising, you're rising higher with power to save, with power to save. Yes, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. There's hope in the morning, hope in the evening, hope because you're living, hope because you're breathing. There's hope in the breaking, hope in the sorrow, hope for this moment, hope for tomorrow. There's hope in the morning, hope in the evening, hope because you're living, hope because you're breathing. There's hope hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Yes, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Nice job singing, everybody.